When we showed up, the first sergeant was standing there, completely combat ineffective.
15 years ago, I was the Lima Company First Sergeant within 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines, and we were deployed to Nowzad, Afghanistan. To any Marine who was in that company with me, I miss you and I think about you each and every day. On this specific day, October 28th, 2009, I was the vehicle commander for the shock trauma platoon. Then we held the ER doctor in the back with our beloved corpsman and a security detail that would get to the point of injury should and when things happen. IED strikes happened that morning. And as we made our way there were more IED strikes. As we dismounted and attempted to get to the injured Marines, there were more IED strikes. And so the day developed into a very, very long and painful day. There was a moment that's seared in my brain. I have the casualties now in the back of the shock trauma platoon vehicle, and I need to get to the LZ. But one of the vehicles that was supposed to clear the way for me had also hit an IED. And what I can see right now as I'm thinking, as I can try to explain what's in my head, the movie reel in my head, is the banging against the back hatch of the vehicle. Remember the hatches that used to come down like this? And there's this Marine who's Spartan kicking the door open over and over. And he comes out of that off the ramp and with his minesweeper points at me and basically says, "Follow me," and clears the road for me to get to the LZ. Just watching that Marine who just suffered God knows what, concussion, whatever, break through to get to me, not thinking about himself, will forever be burned in my brain. The aftermath of that day was 11 casualties, from routine to urgent to killed in action. October 28th was just one day for me.
And 3-4 came in, and 2-3 did a better than average rip, right, which is a relief in place. So anytime a unit takes over for another unit, right, they do a little handshake, they do a turnover. Squad leaders are talking to squad leaders, right? This is what's going on in the AO. They do some patrolling together, right? That really get to know the area, right? So that way you're not starting from scratch. So us team leaders from my platoon, we went and talked to the sniper team leader and the squad leaders from 3-4, and we're like, "Hey fellas, like anything that you want to know about this area, ask us," because we've been everywhere out to 50, 60 clicks around our fob. We have been, and we hiked, we know where the dirt bags are, we know where they're not, we know where to go, where not to go. We've got pictures, right? We've got briefs, we got everything and anything that you want, right? Well, 3-4 was like, we don't care. Straight up, right? They didn't listen to a thing that the guys from 2-3 said, and they didn't listen to anything that we said. We specifically told the snipers, do not go in the district center because there's no one there, right? At the beginning of the deployment, the only people there were dirtbags, right? We want to go into a fight and get in a gunfight, this is where we went. But they're all dead or not wanting to play, right? Other villages north and west wanted to play. These dudes didn't listen. And the sniper team goes into the district center and steps on an IED, and 5 out of 6 of them were messed up. One dude had his jaw blown off, lower jaw blown off. The corpsman they had, both his eardrums were ruptured, and he was like one of the only ones that was like physically like able. A couple amputees, stuff like that. So they call QRF, the Quick Reaction Force. They go out, they hit an IED. Call the second QRF, they go out, they hit an IED. They cobbled together a little bit of a QRF out of those 2 QRFs and then started to push to their position. They also called us up like, "Hey, recon, can you guys come, be a QRF and assist us?" So we're like, "Yeah, absolutely." So we start pushing out. We push past the first dudes who are down with down vehicles, second guys, and we push down to this alley that the QRF had backed down. Well, when the QRF had got there, the first sergeant in charge of the QRF sent the guys down the alley towards the sniper team. And one of the lance corporals told them, hey, look, we need to have a sweeper, right? Minesweeper before we go down this alley. And he's like, no, we don't, push. So this lance corporal goes down the alley, steps on an IED, and gets killed. Bits and pieces of them everywhere. When we showed up, the first sergeant was standing there, completely combat ineffective, 1,000-yard stare, you know, and Kevin, right, went up to him. He's like, hey, first sergeant, you know, what's going on? You know, the dude just, bam, 1,000-yard stare, right? He's like, you know what? Why don't you get on the truck, right? Because his dude is ineffective, right? And this guy's very high up in the Marine Corps right now. He's like, yeah, get on the truck. So he got on the truck, done. And we're like, hey, sniper team's down this alley, let's push. So we pushed down there, started taking mortar and small arms fire, marked over 30 IEDs down this alley to get to these dudes. We actually ran out of spray paint. We're using our magazines to mark IEDs going down this alley. So we get down there, and the dude holding security, the dude with his jaw blown off, he'd packed his own face, right? And he was there on freaking dudes on high alert. And we're like, hey, man, like, you can take it easy. We got it from here. Started triaging the other guys that were there. I grabbed one of the dudes, and he's like, look, hey, man, I need some water, right? Like, rule number one, like, you don't give patients water. And I'm like, nah, dude, I'm not giving you any water, sorry, but we'll get you an IV here. Like, shock trauma is like right down the alley, right? I mean, you know, minus all the IEDs, and hopefully we don't get smoked by a mortar or gunfire on the way, right? But I'm like, look, shock trauma's right down there. Dude, we're gonna get you hooked up with an IV. Everything's gonna be good, man. He's like, dude, I really need some water. All right, here's the deal. I'm gonna give you some water, but if you fucking die on me, I'm gonna come to the afterlife. I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna kick your fucking ass, right? Do not fucking die on me, right? He's like, I promise I won't die. So I pulled out my Nalgene out of my dump pouch with some piss warm water, and gave him some water, and he started coughing a little bit. I'm like, don't do it. Do not fucking do it, dude. Right? And he's like, no, yeah, I'm good, you know? So I pick him up, and we bring him down to the shock trauma vehicle. You know, I shook his hand, put him on the vehicle, and we went and loaded up in our trucks. During this time, the 3-4 CO and their gunner had flown in. And maybe they were already there, I don't really exactly remember. But they came out in a vehicle, right? And we got in our truck, in our Humvee. We started backing out of this alley, and like a dumbass, I've got my freaking door open. I'm telling my guide, Zach, right, hey, you know, left, right, like stay in the tracks that we were in, right? Because we know there's no IEDs, at least we didn't think there was, right? We didn't think there was any IEDs. So we're backing down, I got my door open, blah, blah. Get the back of the alley, and our MRAP started pulling out and pulled past us, probably maybe 10 yards in front of us, and hit a 100-pounder right in front, 100-pound IED right in the freaking track that we just drove over. And somehow we didn't set it off. And our MRAP had like probably most of our platoon in it, probably like 10 dudes, easy, 12, because we had the mix match people and, you know, like heat of battle type stuff, you know. And the IED was like so big that our truck like lifted off the ground. Dude, I was doing the check, right? Like, okay, here, make sure my dick's still attached, legs are still there, right? Like, whoo, man, check my freaking turret gunner. Like, hey, Matty Lou, are you good? Right? Because like I saw something over in a ditch off to the left, and I thought it was either the turret gunner from the MRAP, which is my slack man, John, right? And I thought it was either him or it was my freaking turret gunner. It wasn't. It was the damn tailpipe, the exhaust from the muffler from the MRAP. And it's like Matty Lou's like, hey, man, I'm right here. I'm good. I'm like, oh, whew, thank goodness. We had to freaking move dudes off there, right? We start getting them put on vehicles so we can get the fuck out of there. The battalion commander and the gunner show up, random MRAP, right? And they're like, they get out and they just start walking around, right? So I open the window. I'm like, hey, get the fuck in your truck. Like, I didn't know who they were, right? Like, couldn't see rank or anything like that. Not that I gave a shit, right? But you don't get out of your vehicle in this place, right? Unless you want to die. There's way too many IEDs in that area, like for you to just get out and just have a fucking leisurely stroll on a freaking whatever morning that was, you know? I'm like, hey, you don't walk anywhere without a sweeper, period. You don't walk anywhere. Get back in your fucking truck and stay there. And he bends down to look in my window, and I see the Lieutenant Colonel chevron. He's like, oh, yo, hey, thanks for that. You know, I'm like, yeah. No problem. Close the window. I'm like, you dumb mother, like just, whole lot of expletives going on that day at that time. So we peel off to the LZ. The medevac came in, Chinook out of freaking Bastion with some Brits on it. I go and I end up grabbing the same dude that I had evac'd out of the freaking compound there, and he looked like hell. Like I was like, hey dude, you made me a deal. Do not die. Like we're going from here. We're going to the bird. There's probably a hot British chick on it, right? Like they like to suntan like naked over at Camp like Bastion, like just think about that, right? Probably gonna be a hot Brit on this freaking bird, man, and he just looked like hell. So bird lands, we ran him up there, ran all the rest of the casualties on there. My slack man didn't even who's in the turret, the MRAP that got blown up, he ended up getting evac too because he couldn't even remember like the last week prior to that, so he had like serious TBI. They all lived. Dude who's in our platoon, Angel Baeza, called me. I was like, hey man, remember that sniper team? He's like, I'm at a Wounded Warrior hockey game, and they're all here. And they all lived. So yeah, man, it's like the most awesome thing that I've ever heard in my entire life, man, because I had no idea. I don't remember their names. I just know that we went there to save their lives, and we did, Yeah, the only one that was KIA was the dude who got pushed down the alley by the guy who's now a Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps. I'm pretty sure that dude got a Bronze Star for that day that he doesn't deserve, and he was combat ineffective, and he got his men killed. Something that he's got to live with. It's what happens when a guy who's spent all his time in the drill field and whatever, and now he's just a first sergeant in charge of QRF out in the middle of freaking Wild West Afghanistan. I mean, for the rest of that day, we had to go back out there right after we had evac'd those guys, and we had to go back out. So we had down vehicles out there. So we got out there, recover our vehicles, get mortars and like literally landing like within 5 yards of the truck, like peppering the truck, getting shot at, right? Got to recover all these vehicles, right? And then get our asses back to the freaking fob. And it was like a day of mayhem. Like, cause 3-4s didn't have their shit together. Man, that's it, period. And it like, that's like, I've talked about it with a lot of my friends a lot, and the men that I served with in that platoon, and like our platoon in that deployment, as far as a recon platoon goes, was a junior platoon. And my ATL had never deployed before, right? Most of the dudes in my team had not deployed before, right? The team leaders in the platoon had deployed, but a lot of the guys were junior. But it was the best recon platoon that I've ever served with.